Welcome, everyone, present and online. My name is Andrew Erkamp, and I'm the Communications Director here at the Archdiocese of Edmonton. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. We gratefully acknowledge that Treaty 6, Treaty 7, and Treaty 8 territory on which we stand is the ancestral traditional land of the indigenous peoples and is common home to everyone in virtue of God, our Creator's gracious gift. This morning we received news from the Vatican regarding the visit of Pope Francis to Canada. Archbishop Richard Smith is the national coordinator of that visit. We know there are a lot of questions. We refer everyone to the national websites which are live now, papalvisit.ca in English and visitepapal.ca for French, which have as much information as we can share at this time. Archbishop Smith is here to make brief comments and take your questions. For the media present, please state your name and news organization during the question period. Please make your question brief so we can answer as many as possible. Your Grace.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, everybody. Nice to have you here. Welcome. So as Andrew mentioned, in the early hours, very early hours of this morning, we received some good news, some wonderful news, that Pope Francis will make a pastoral visit here to Canada. Now, the Holy Father is coming to meet with the indigenous peoples of this land. He's coming on a pilgrimage of healing, of reconciliation, and of hope. This will be the fourth papal journey to Canada since the last one of John Paul II in 2002. So we are very happy, we're delighted to welcome Pope Francis here among us. And we're very grateful to him for having accepted the invitation from the indigenous peoples, from the Canadian bishops, and from the federal government to visit us here on our common homeland. Now, the Pope will arrive in Canada July 24th, and he will depart from our country on July 29th of this year. And you'll recall that just over a month ago, the Pope met in Rome with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit delegates that comprised elders, knowledge keepers, survivors of residential schools, and youth. And they met in Rome so that he could listen to them, listen to their stories, and encounter them, hear their hearts, and express his own. And it gave him an opportunity to learn about the historical realities and the historical and ongoing intergenerational trauma that does continue to impact Indigenous peoples. At the time, he reiterated his intention to come to Canada. He had already said that in last fall, October, I believe it was, that he wanted to come. He reiterated that in Rome, and now he's going to be fulfilling that desire. Now, the Vatican has made clear that the Pope's itinerary for this particular trip has to unfold within very narrow limits. This arises from the Holy Father's advanced age. He's now over 85. And the unfortunate fact that he's severely limited in his mobility. In fact, we've seen recently that he is now confined to a wheelchair. So because of all of this, the Vatican has selected just 3 communities as the base for his visit: Edmonton, Quebec City, and Iqaluit. Although travel for the Holy Father for this visit is understandably very restricted, nevertheless, we shall work with our Indigenous partners to ensure that these encounters with the Holy Father, where they occur, will have a meaningful impact for everybody across this vast expanse of our land. The formal program will be announced once it's confirmed, and I would expect that would be sometime mid-June. The program will take shape as we continue our dialogue with Indigenous partners. And certainly, we will have the Pope visit a former residential school site and other locations of significance. The Pope's visit will provide an opportunity for him to listen and to dialogue with Indigenous peoples on this land, to express to them his heartfelt closeness, and to address the impact of residential schools here in Canada. The papal visit obviously will also provide an opportunity for the shepherd of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics to connect with the Catholic community here in Canada. For this visit, we're carrying forward the theme that we used in the Roman delegation, the theme of walking together, which is a reminder to us all of the ongoing journey towards healing and reconciliation. It's a pathway into the future along which all Canadians have a shared responsibility to walk. Now, this visit of the Pope is an important step along that journey. It's a big one, we know, obviously. But at the same time, we're aware that no single step can eliminate the pain felt by residential school survivors or the victims of intergenerational trauma stemming from residential schools. But we do pray that this papal visit will help to bring about greater healing for the victims and their families. And certainly the bishops of Canada are committed to that journey. Finally, I invite prayers for the health of Pope Francis. Let's pray that as he prepares to visit Canada in July, God will bless him with strength and with stamina to travel to our country for this visit of healing, hope, and reconciliation. Thanks, and I'm happy now to take your questions.
Thank you, Your Grace. You'll take the first question.
So,
Just if you could identify yourself.
Christian Khan, Global News Edmonton. So just want to ask, he's coming during the same time there's the Lac St. Anne pilgrimage. Do you know, we've heard people saying that they wish he would attend to that. Has there been an invite to that, or even to visit communities, other Indigenous communities here? Any of those, information that you can confirm or say?
In terms of confirming what's going to happen, that has to wait for the Vatican to do it. But the Pope himself, if you recall, from the Roman experience, he himself expressed his wish to be with the Indigenous peoples as they honor St. Anne. He understands that that's very important to them. The role of the Kokum within the Indigenous communities is very important, the grandmother. And St. Anne being the grandmother of Jesus, that they have developed in many, many cases a strong, strong devotion to her. So I would say that Lac St. Anne, a visit to Lac St. Anne is probably a strong possibility.
Just to follow up with that as well, do you know if it's in the plans for him to make some sort of another formal apology while here among Indigenous groups?
We would expect a reiteration of his apology. He understands, as we all do, the strong connection of the Indigenous peoples to their land. Their land for them culturally, spiritually, historically, in terms of their customs, they're deeply, deeply connected to it. And that's why we've heard the invitations, the constant invitations for the Pope to come and to deliver those words of apology here on their land. So we fully expect that the Pope will reiterate the apology that he did give in Rome.
Over here.
So is the Vatican or the Canadian Council of Bishops reimbursing or offering any funding so residential school survivors can meet the Pope in person?
That would be something to be determined. One of the things that we realize is going to be important is that if we do have a very limited geographical scope for the visit, there will be a number of survivors that will want to be present with the Pope wherever he is. I would say that these are details that still have to get worked out, but we certainly do want to do what we can to support them being present with the Holy Father.
And do you know why, Winnipeg, with the largest Indigenous population, or Kamloops, that sparked the international attention for unmarked graves, why the Pope isn't visiting either of those locations while he's on?
The Pope had a number of invitations, I guess, as we all know. So when the Pope met with the Indigenous delegates in Rome, and I was privileged to be in the room with them, he heard from them directly the hopes and the invitations to go to a number of different places across the country. So that was not unknown to the Pope or to the Vatican. But what's really directing this is the Pope's limited ability to get around. So the Vatican is very, very clear. When he comes to a country, he can't get around by helicopter. He can't be in a car any more than an hour. He cannot be in a different place every night. So what they've said is we're going to have to choose places as hubs that will allow him to access sites that will be meaningful but easily accessible within a short space of time. So what that has meant is that the Pope would not simply be able to get to every place. The Vatican chose these 3 sites for those various reasons, seeing how we could have a meaningful impact within a very, very limited scope. But that places upon all of us a responsibility to make sure that those venues, once chosen, still are going to have a national impact. And this is the kind of thing that we want to be working on in significant detail with our Indigenous partners as this all unfolds.
Are there any plans for him to visit any sites of unmarked graves while he's here?
We will certainly want to have the Pope visit a former residential school site. And at that site, he will be able to address any one of a number of issues associated with the residential school legacy. Because the Pope can't get to every site doesn't mean that he still can't address every issue.
Hi, Audrey Neveu de Radio-Canada. I'll ask my question in English, but if you're able to answer in French, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will try.
Yes. Can you explain what your role will be as national coordinator? What does that entail?
C'est quelque chose que je suis en train de découvrir, franchement, parce que c'est quelque chose tout à fait nouvelle pour moi. Mais pour une visite papale, c'est normal pour le Vatican d'entrer en relation, en dialogue avec la conférence épiscopale d'un pays. Et c'est à la conférence de désigner un de leurs évêques d'agir en tant que coordinateur national. Alors, ça veut dire que c'est à moi d'établir une équipe nationale pour planifier tout aspect d'une visite qui est très, très complexe. Alors, du point de vue de logistique, d'accueillir des fonds pour payer pour la visite, pour toutes sortes de planifications. C'est à moi d'établir une équipe comme ça, et en même temps des équipes locaux pour travailler avec nos partenaires autochtones pour développer un plan qui serait significatif pour tout le monde. C'est un processus assez complexe, mais je suis en train de découvrir tout ce que ça veut dire.
Puis, expliquez-moi en français, si vous pouvez, pourquoi est-ce que Edmonton a été choisi dans l'Ouest plutôt que d'autres villes, justement, comme Kamloops ou Winnipeg, et pourquoi le thème « Marchons ensemble ».
Marchons ensemble comme thème, c'est quelque chose qu'on a choisi lors de la délégation à Rome. C'est quelque chose qu'on a choisi en partenariat avec nos partenaires autochtones. Quelque chose de significatif pour eux et pour nous autres aussi. C'est le centre, vraiment l'essence de qu'est-ce que ça veut dire la réconciliation, marcher ensemble, établir des relations les uns avec les autres et tout ça. Et donc, on a décidé que ça serait important de faire continuer un tel thème. En ce qui concerne le choix d'Edmonton, je pense que c'était le choix du Vatican, mais il me semble qu'à cause de la proximité à lac Sainte-Anne, le pape lui-même a indiqué qu'il voudrait visiter les peuples autochtones en même temps qu'il honore Sainte-Anne. Alors, c'est très important de choisir une ville centrale pour faciliter l'accès du pape aux centres divers, y compris celle de lac Sainte-Anne. Je pense que c'est la raison qu'on a choisi Edmonton.
Oui. Dernière question. À quoi peut-on s'attendre de la visite du pape ici? Quel type d'activité, quelles remarques pourrait-il faire?
Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter?
Oui. À quoi peut-on s'attendre de la visite du pape ici? Est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre à une visite d'un pensionnat autochtone et à des excuses de nouveau?
Pour une visite papale, c'est toujours un événement historique important pour les peuples qui reçoivent le pape. Il est le chef de l'Église et le successeur de Saint-Pierre et tout ce qui est impliqué avec ça. Mais en plus, pour les peuples autochtones, moi, j'ai vu personnellement que pendant les délégations à Rome, le pape lui-même a été touché profondément par tout ce qu'il a entendu de la part des peuples autochtones. Et on a exprimé à lui leur cœur, vraiment, et il a répondu dans la même façon. On a établi un rapport, une relation très, 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 très beau, je voudrais dire. Et ce serait une importante occasion ici au Canada de faire continuer, de faire approfondir leur relation. Et j'ai le sens que pour les peuples autochtones de sentir du pape lui-même les mots qui pour eux sont très très importants sera une occasion sans pareil vraiment pour faire avancer ce chemin de réconciliation.
Over here.
Polampa from CTV News. And I apologize if this was already addressed, but when the Pope visits the residential schools, will there be any special Catholic services in coordination with, some of the traditional indigenous, services as well?
Well, again, as I said earlier, the details of the program are yet to be developed. This is something that we're doing in dialogue with our Indigenous partners, and once that's all confirmed, that's when we'll be in a position for the Vatican to make that public. But it is clearly a priority for all of us that whatever takes place in whatever venue will feature as a priority, as a first concern, Indigenous culture, Indigenous spirituality, Indigenous ways. The Pope is here for the Indigenous peoples. He's made that very clear. That is his first priority, to the point that I think it's fair to say that were it not for his desire to engage with the Indigenous peoples on their land, he probably would not be coming to Canada. He is a Pope who prefers to travel to countries that have never seen a Pope on their land. He's a Pope who prefers to go to countries that are on the undeveloped end, if I can put it that way, of the economic spectrum, that suffer from poverty and deprivation. But he has made it very clear, in spite of these severe limits on his mobility, that he is determined to come to Canada to be with them. So that means that our programming in all of its aspects must reflect that priority. That's a long way of answering yes to your question.
Further questions? Okay. Seeing none, Your Grace, do you have any closing comments?
Well, just to say that I'm very pleased, as so many of us are, that the Pope is coming. I guess I'd want to add that I'm a little astonished that he's coming here. We have seen his limitation increase. We have seen him progressively cancel events because of his inability and to move around because of the pain that he's suffering. We understand that he was hoping to go to Lebanon in June. That's been canceled. We also understand that in early July, he is going to South Sudan and to the Congo, just a few weeks before coming here. I think that is an ambitious itinerary for a young person in the best of health. This is extraordinarily ambitious for the Holy Father. And so that's why I say I'm more than a little surprised that this is still going to happen. Surprised and delighted. It shows just how determined he is to be here with the Indigenous peoples to the degree that he can. And even though this will be limited in a geographical reach in terms of the itinerary itself, we're committed to making sure that it will have a broad national impact and as meaningful as possible for everybody.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.